This is it, folks. The week that will go down as possibly the biggest week of Xbox's history. We're going to be talking about that Bethesda acquisition and what it means, as well as how their pre-orders went, upgrades from current to next-gen titles, and the huge fact that the Xbox Series X is currently out in the wild. Joining me to break down the news from this historic week, I've got Xbox Series expert Jordan Ramey.
What's up?
Xbox Series expert Tamoor Hussain.
Absolutely lubricated for these consoles, lads.
And we're also joined by a very special guest.
Merry Christmas, Xbox. It's Usher.
Not that special guest. We will try again later. This has been one of the biggest news weeks that I can remember. Kicked off Monday morning with the news that Microsoft had acquired Bethesda. We all bandied together, did a really in-depth breakdown of the news on the channel. You can go watch it right now. We'll link it below and maybe even put a little clip here. I don't know. Evan, that's up to you. But let's talk a little bit about some more of the tidbits that have been rolling out throughout the week. Jordan, I'm going to come to you first. Let's talk exclusives and studios. Obviously, the stable for Xbox has now they've almost doubled how many studios that are in their first party lineup.
I'm about to say, and if you look at how many studios they had going into the Xbox One console generation, it's closer to tripling from 7 years ago or something like that. It's massive. I remember thinking man, Xbox is going to have so many studios, actually more than Sony and PlayStation going into the Xbox Series X and S. That's really impressive. It's something I never thought it was going to happen 4 or 5 years ago. And then just all of a sudden, on the eve of the console coming out, they're like, oh yeah, and here's just 8 more also coming. So we have over 20 studios now making first party, most likely console exclusives for Xbox. And assuming that each studio makes at least one game for this console generation, that's 20 first-party console exclusives, and that's impressive. That's a lot of new games coming to Xbox.
Well, we don't know exactly how the console exclusivity will work. I'm kind of in the camp that they're not going to lock everything off to Xbox, just like they did with Minecraft. Minecraft is still playable on everything at this point. So, but in terms of things that are going to be coming to Game Pass day one, that's a huge boon for them. Tam, what do you think about the PS5 stuff that we know is in production currently as a console exclusive? What does this acquisition mean for PS5 and exclusives going forward?
So the games specifically that we're talking about as it relates to Bethesda are Ghostwire Tokyo and Deathloop Arcane and Tango. So those games, Phil Spencer has said they're going to continue to honor the agreements around those, and the agreement being they are console exclusive. That's an important kind of caveat to this at all, because Microsoft isn't completely cut out of any sort of involvement with those games. They are PC available as well, and obviously that means that people who are playing on PC are working within Microsoft's ecosystem. So Phil Spencer has committed to that for now, and then everything else going forward is going to be on a case-by-case basis, which kind of lends credence to what Lucy was saying about not everything being locked behind a Xbox wall. It's in their interest to make sure that there's availability across platforms to them. So we'll see how that shakes out. The other thing is when exclusivity deals, console exclusivity deals aren't usually in perpetuity. It's not always for the lifetime of the existence of video games. So there's a good chance that there's a timed window in which it's exclusive. We've seen that happen with many games over the long history of exclusivities and video games as a whole. So it could be that 3 years into the cycle, 2 years, maybe even a year, Deathloop and Ghostwire Tokyo become available on Xbox consoles instead of just PC. So as it stands, they're going to honor the agreement, but I think personally that there's a timer on that agreement. We just don't know about it yet. And then going forward, I expect that Microsoft, Phil, sponsors, and the various other teams involved in that will be thinking about what benefits them and Game Pass the most. How can they take a game that is available on multiple consoles and inject it with additional value that people can only get through Game Pass? Game Pass gives them a lot of value as is, but is there anything they can do more to it that will attract people towards Game Pass?
But Game Pass, as of something that's valuable, if you watch the interview, we've got Major Nelson, Phil Sponsors, Pete Hines, and Todd Howard. And if you're anything like me, you spend ages just like looking at the background of everyone's shots to see if anyone's teasing anything. But Todd is actually talking about how, you know, like the relationship with Microsoft has been over the years. But he specifically calls out how great Game Pass is, and that it's a service that he's been looking for years, and now it's finally in this incredible stage where, you know, just stuff is getting added to it day one, and it's a fantastic service. And so that definitely, you know, when you're thinking about the acquisition, you definitely want Bethesda to be on board with having their titles available day one. But Jordan, I'm going to come to you because, like, Game Pass is just this behemoth now. We call it the best deal in gaming, and it just keeps proving time and time again that it is. But what benefits is it going to have going forward into this next generation now that Bethesda are on board?
It's one of those like huge things that I don't think we're going to see the true ramifications of it until like 5, maybe 10 years down the line. But it's one of those things that I think about where Xbox has made all of these moves over the past 2 years that tie into Game Pass, where theoretically you could now get the Xbox Series S for $25 a month with all access, which includes Game Pass Ultimate, which now includes all these new Bethesda games like Dishonored 2, Fallout, Starfield, and Elder Scrolls 6 whenever they come out, and how that's going to change the way that people from like low-income households or just people who just normally can't get the new console at launch and can't get these amazing games, like maybe they only get 1 or 2 games a year, so they've just missed out on Dishonored 2 and they've just missed out on Skyrim, and now they get the chance to play these games day one when they come out, and how so many game developers and journalists get into the roles that they do because they played that one game, that one special game that they fell in love with, and that inspired them to pursue some sort of career. And how now there's just going to be this huge like part of the community that has never been able to play new games before now has the chance to do so. And Bethesda is one of the biggest names in gaming, and Xbox is like, oh yeah, Starfield day one for free on Xbox Game Pass with a subscription, and how that's just a huge step in forms of affordability. And if you include like accessibility in that, like a bunch of people don't necessarily know what sort of accessibility options the game is going to have, Game Pass now allows them to try that game now for quote unquote free, before maybe like, oh, I can't actually play this game, and they're not losing money out on it. And Xbox is just quietly making these moves, and that are just going to have these huge ramifications, I think, on our industry, like years from now. Like, they won't be immediately apparent, but it'll be amazing to see if this attracts just a bunch of new voices that we've never had a chance to get into the industry before. And they're moves that just Sony and Nintendo just aren't making. And Xbox is like, we're going to be the forerunners in this. We're going to take the first step.
It's interesting you keep mentioning Starfield there, because obviously that is such a huge draw, despite the fact that no one knows anything about it. And if you got time, please watch that interview with Bethesda and Microsoft, because there's a moment in that interview where Major Nelson just like zooms in on Todd Howard and he's like, "Sup with Starfield?" And Todd just basically says nothing. It's fantastic.
Which was a nice segue to my next question, because since I'm controlling everything here, Starfield, what's up?
Anyway, before we move on from this acquisition, they've also opened up the, like, Microsoft aren't done, which is a really exciting possibility. Tam, do you want to read the quote from Phil talking to sister website CNET?
Yeah, so I'll come to Phil first, but also it's worth, I'll come to Phil in a second, but it's also worth getting the perspective of the boss, CEO of Microsoft, Satya Nadela, who also spoke to CNET. And he said that we'll always look for places where there is that commonality of purpose, mission, and culture. We'll always look to grow where it makes sense. So this is kind of couched in the understanding that more game studio purchases could happen in the future. And then speaking to CNET again, Phil said that content is just the incredible ingredient to our platform that we continue to invest in. This doubles the size of our creative organization. So there are definitely opportunities going forward for Xbox to acquire even more studios. I mean, I think it will be a little while before that happens, but the important thing is like this is all to give further value to one, Game Pass, because as it stands, Game Pass doesn't make a lot of money, if at all. I believe that it doesn't make them a profit right now, but they are currently investing in the future. There's going to be opportunities for them to monetize Game Pass in a way that they're not perhaps being as aggressive with. It'll be interesting to see whether they start doing things like making DLC expansions to game fully paid instead of making them more available on Game Pass, because you get the base game for free. If you want more of it, you got to cough up the money for it. Or even like microtransactions, again, like, you know, Skyrim or Oblivion. You want to buy that horse armor, you still got to spend different, you know, a separate cash amount to get it. But yeah, there's definitely huge opportunities for them to grow going forward. Who knows what they could buy? I think they're very smart in what they purchase, but there's a lot of potential there. I definitely want to hear what our special guest has to say about this.
Happy New Year, Xbox. Hoping you're having a wonderful 2013.
Turns out not much of value.
No. Evan, can you sort it out, please?
Another huge moment for Xbox this week. One that maybe didn't go down as well as I think we were all hoping after PS5 last week, but their pre-orders went live. How did yours go? We didn't film this one because I was in bed and I have a rule of no cameras before 8:30.
It's a good rule.
I was like a troll, like my hair was everywhere. Jordan, how did your pre-order experience go?
I say, unlike PlayStation 5, I did actually manage to get an Xbox, so I'm happy. I'm getting it day one. I will have at least one next-gen console going into this next console generation.
Tam, how long did it take you?
Mine was, as you know, I'm weirdly lucky with stuff like this, so mine was super painless.
The luckiest man alive
I
I've
hate how
ever
lucky
met.
you are with
It's
that.
unbelievable how quickly you get tickets to things. Like when Hamilton came to the UK, Tam got us tickets for I think the second or third ever showing.
Yeah,
and like
and
incredible seats.
I like typed in the URL for the ticket website, and it was like, you are number one in the queue. I was like, cool. I'll just get that. And then like Harry Potter and the Cursed Child came out, and everyone was trying to get it, and I was like, I wonder if I can get any tickets. And I clicked the link, and it was like, you are number one in the queue. I was like,
How?
so like I rolled up to the PlayStation, to the Xbox pre-orders, and I was like, I'm gonna try it on the Xbox website. I refreshed, and it was like, add to cart. I was like, yep, that'll do. And then like I saw that Amazon went live. I was like, let me try on Amazon, and if it works, I'll cancel the other one. I went to Amazon, hit the load button. It gave me a dog. I was like, oh, it's a dog. And then I hit it again, and it was like, add to cart. I was like, yep, that'll do.
So I struggled way more with Xbox than I did PlayStation. Like PlayStation, I was just on Walmart refreshing for a bit, and then I eventually got it. I got in straight away on Amazon. Xbox was strange because UK seemed to go painlessly. Pretty much. I think our friend Simon Cardy was saying that, you know, the S hadn't even sold out in the UK. US, I lucked out with the Microsoft Store. That seemed to be the most reliable. It was very, very slow. Amazon not going live at 8 was very, very strange and very frustrating. And it was kind of like the same thing. And this is, you know, putting it to Sony, putting it to Microsoft, putting it even to Nintendo for when the Switch launched. It's like, we need to have a better way of dealing with pre-orders. I get that these are unprecedented times. Everyone is at home and online. Having a date and time is really great, but there needs to be some kind of forethought to think of demand. Like, you must have assumed that people would be overloading those stores to try and get them. And so that's a general criticism at everyone. I get that it's unprecedented times, but you could also see the frustration in a lot of people when they just couldn't get the console that they wanted. But hopefully Wave 2 and Wave 3 will be much, much smoother.
It's also important to know, like, a lot of times this isn't the platform holders' fault. Like, in Sony's case, it wasn't really their fault. Retailers jumped the gun. It was that absolutely spicy Walmart behavior. And the same for Microsoft. Microsoft, in terms of how they approached the rollout, was a little cleaner. They gave everyone a time, and nothing went live before then, unless you were in New Zealand or UK and the territory mattered. but it was the retailers that really took a hammering. So the important thing to realize is when in these situations, when you are complaining on Twitter, don't aim it at the platform holder, because they did their job was to try and make sure that people got at a certain mark. If the Amazon servers fall over, or various other Walmart, Target servers have an issue, that's not really their fault. Microsoft Store maybe, but like demand was the big issue there, and they could definitely have scaled better for their own kind of store. But generally, it's the retailers that are issue, not Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo. So please be nice.
But also don't attack like retail workers.
Yeah.
I'll say you're gonna lose us that sweet Walmart sponsorship.
We have a Walmart sponsorship?
We don't have a Walmart sponsorship.
I was
Cut that,
gonna say,
Evan.
what?
Cut that.
Although, hang on, so they did delete this, but you know how iOS 14 updated and they added widgets? I think it was
What?
Target. I think it was Target or another retailer tweeted, "Don't mind us, just spent the last hour making our phone screen really aesthetic." And every single response was, "Stock more PS5, stock more PS5, stock more Xbox." And they deleted the tweet. Like, it was just that poor community manager one day just rolling up, just thinking, "Oh, I'll make a fun zeitgeisty meme about iOS 14 widgets." And no.
The gamers kicking
the
in the door.
gamers.
I just anytime a brand does a tweet on Twitter, I imagine gamers like entering a room like Kazuma Kiryu, kicking that door in and walking in and being like, "The gamers are here. There you go, Evan. There's your excuse to get our beloved boy in."
Well, speaking of our beloved boy, we do have an important update from our very special guest.
Happy Easter, Xbox.
No, come on, Evan, sort this out.
But this is the final point of Xbox's big week, is the fact that, damn, the Xbox Series X is out in the wild, and it's not just a cardboard version that we made ourselves to try and figure out how big it would be. It's not the dummy model that they sent out a couple weeks ago, so that you could get a feel for how big everything was. This is a fully working Xbox Series X, almost 2 full months out from the release of the console itself. I don't remember this happening, like getting access to consoles, at least, I guess, we're not in the office, but like at home. I remember when the Xbox One came out, like there were, in London, they made a little apartment and you could go book appointments and go play on the console, but you couldn't have one at home. Very excited to have Xboxes out in the wild. And so to celebrate, we've got a very special message from our tech expert, Michael Hyam, who's going to be joining us to talk about it next week.
Happy Easter, Xbox! Hey everyone, Michael here, editor at GameSpot, and I have the Xbox Series X, the fully functioning real console. Now I'm going to be heading up our hands-on impressions, previews, technical breakdowns, all that good stuff on GameSpot. Now I need to get to work though, but that's all I can share for now, so stay tuned.
We got there eventually, Evan. Thank you. We have that pre-recorded message from Michael. He will be on Generation next week. So if you have questions about the Xbox Series X, what it's like to have in your home, please leave them in the comments below, or come at one of us on Twitter and we'll put them to Michael next week. Guys, how are you feeling about the fact that the Series X is out there?
I think it's such a smart move, and this show isn't about pitting one against the other, which is, we've got pre-orders for both of these. But I will say it's interesting that Sony's strategy has been to keep the console very close to their chest. Right now, the feeds, the social feeds, the YouTube feeds, the Twitter feeds, the High Five, MySpace, Bebo, Habbo Hotel, Adult Friend Finder feeds are all just full of Xbox, and it seems like a very carefully thought out, flooding the systems kind of strategy. And meanwhile, Sony has very little kind of to push back against it. It's almost being drowned out in the kind of public conversation. So Sony, if you're watching, get to it. Maybe send out some PS5s to some people. And
I'll send you my address. I'll send you my address if you want to send one here.
Please send us consoles. Send anyone consoles so we can learn anything about it. But yeah, it's super exciting to have it out there in the wild.
Jordan?
I'm jealous that I can't touch one, but it probably makes a lot more sense for national treasure Michael Hyam to have it, since he actually knows what he's talking about when he uses words like teraflops. I would just hold and be like, damn, this looks so pretty, and it plays all the games that I love, and that's all I'd be able to say about it.
Michael Hyam is known for getting up all in them guts, so He's going to do it again. You'd love to see it.
And I think that's what we're going to call the show for today. All right, like I said, questions about the Series X from someone who's actually been playing it, comments below. Tam, where can people find you?
You can find me getting up all in them guts on Twitter at Tamoor.
Jordan?
Find me on Twitter at JMRame.
Oh, hang on, wait. Biggest news from that interview is that Pete Hines said Big Phil fan.
You know what? Sorry, I muted because my dogs went nuts. They're big Phil fans. They're big Phil fans. They're big Phil fans.
Hi, my name is Phil. Most of my friends call me Big Phil.
Big Phil fan.
Big Phil
They
fan.
used our nickname for Phil.
It's canon. It's
It's canon
happening.
now.
All right, and I'm on Twitter at Lucy James Games, and we'll see you next week.